Niger. Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor 2004 February 28, 2005. Niger is a republic that returned to democracy in 1999, following coups d'état in 1996 and 1999, and continued efforts to consolidate a democratic system and a constitutional government. On December 4, Tanja Mammadou was elected to his second 5-year presidential term with 65% of the vote in an election that international observers called generally free and fair. 4 parties joined the ruling coalition of the National Movement for the Development of Society (MNSD) and the Democratic and Socialist Convention (CDS) to win 88 of the 113 seats in the National Assembly. On December 24, Tanja reappointed MNSD party president Tanja Mammadou as prime minister. The judiciary continued to show signs of independence. However, family and business ties could influence lower court decisions, and there were reports that the executive branch influenced the judicial process. Judicial corruption and inefficiency were problems. Security forces consist of the armed forces, composed of the Army and Air Force, National Forces for Intervention and Security, FNIS, composed of the Republican Guard and the Saharan Unit for Security, Gendarmerie, Paramilitary Police, and National Police. The armed forces, under the Ministry of Defense, were responsible for internal and external security. The Gendarmerie, also under the Defense Ministry, had primary responsibility for rural security. The FNIS, under the Interior Ministry, was responsible for domestic security and the protection of high-level officials and federal buildings, and the National Police, also under the Interior Ministry, were responsible for urban law enforcement. Civilian authorities generally maintained effective control of the security forces. A few members of the security forces committed human rights abuses. The economy was market-based and depended primarily on subsistence farming, herding, small trading, and informal markets. Approximately 15% of the economy was in the formal sector, primarily in light industry and government services. Approximately 61% of the population of 11.2 million lived on less than $1 a day, and the country's per capita income was less than $200 a year. The rate of economic growth in 2003 was 3%. The government's projection for the rate of growth by year's end was 4.1%. Drought, locust infestation, deforestation, soil degradation, high population growth rates, and exceedingly low literacy were problems. The government generally respected the human rights of its citizens. However, there were problems in some areas. During the year, security forces killed and abused persons, although there were fewer such incidents than in previous years. Prison conditions remained poor and sometimes life-threatening, and prolonged pretrial detention remained a problem. Police arrested a journalist and an opposition politician during the year. And like in the previous year, there were no reports that the government limited freedom of speech, the press, or academic freedom. Security forces also forcibly dispersed violent student protests and injured numerous demonstrators. The government continued to ban several Islamist organizations that engaged in or threatened violence. Domestic violence and societal discrimination against women continued to be serious problems. Female genital mutilation (FGM) persisted, despite a government ban on the practice. There was societal discrimination against persons with certain disabilities and ethnic minorities, and reports continued of a form of slavery or servitude. Child labor and forced or compulsory labor, including by children, occurred. There were reports of trafficking, including child prostitution. During the year, the government took steps to decentralize and to consolidate democratic institutions by holding generally free and fair presidential, legislative, and municipal elections.